I have Manish Tewari joining us on the broadcast as well. Mr. Tewari, thank you very much for your time. The big headline for all of us, of course, is personal income tax and the fact that all of us get a little more money in our wallets. That's a good thing, right? That's a positive thing. At least on that, the Congress party will give Nirmala Sitharaman a thumbs up.
Well, I congratulate you for getting a little more money in your budget, in your wallet. So therefore, if that little money makes you happy, so be it. I'm absolutely happy about your happiness.
Little money is better than no money, Mr. Tewari.
but you
for
need
a poor journalist like me, little money is better than no money.
But you need to step back and look at the bigger picture. The fact remains that the fisc still remains in the range of about 15 lakh odd crores. Right? So therefore, the needle on the big numbers has not really moved. Government is still going to borrow 11 lakh crores from the market, which then squeezes out private borrowing. So therefore, if you really want the private sector to invest and create employment, and you're going to squeeze them out of the credit market because government is going to borrow 11 lakh crores, where really are they going to be getting their finances from? That's question number one. Question number two is that the government's total debt has gone up to an astounding 190 lakh odd crores. I mean, it was at about 55 lakh crores 10 years back. You've added almost 140 lakh crores in terms of government debt and liability over the past decade. Now, that is a worrying number. Someone can argue that as a debt to GDP ratio, we are still within the guardrails. But the fact remains that a whopping 140 lakh crores in terms of debt on the government's balance sheet, should worry everybody. And therefore, when I step back and I look at the budget in a holistic perspective, in 2019, Finance Minister had cut the corporate income tax rates very drastically. The effective corporate income tax rate is about 22.5%. But if you look at the rupee, the largest component of where the rupee comes from is from borrowings. The second largest component of where the rupee comes from is personal income tax. Corporate income tax is the third big item on that laundry list. So essentially, this means that over the past 5 or 6 years, the corporate income tax relief which was given has not translated into an augmentation of the government revenues as a consequence of investment and as a consequence of that investment then generating employment and also boosting corporate balance sheets so that they can actually pay back in terms of higher corporate income tax. And that's, for me, a worrying number also.
Okay, no, yesterday the chief economic advisor, though he didn't elaborate on it, did say that corporate India Inc. has let the finance ministry down. But there is a counter argument to the corporate tax argument that you're giving. The counter argument is this: had it not been for the lowering of the corporate tax in 2019, and you can correct me if you want, but had it not been for that lowering from 30% to 22%, we would not have managed during the COVID years. That it would have been economically, we would have been much, much worse. The second argument also given is that corporate India Inc. deserves that tax break simply because they are the ones who are showing appetite for risk. As an individual taxpayer, what is the risk I'm taking? Nothing. But they need to be incentivized, therefore need to be incentivized.
So therefore, unfortunately, that incentive has not worked because the economy over the past 5 years has been driven by government capital expenditure. The private capital expenditure is in the range of about 10 or 11 lakh crores. I mean, if the number is correct from the top of my head. The short point being that if that corporate income tax would have really unleashed the animal spirits of the economy, then you would have had a higher plowback 5 years down the line in terms of returns from the corporate sector to the government's kitty. That's number one. And since you refer to the chief economic advisor, I think the most damning indictment of the governance culture of this government has come from the chief economic advisor, where he has said that the process in India is the punishment, that you are adjudged guilty and you have to prove your innocence, which turns jurisprudence completely on its head. And that's why over the past 10 years,
Okay.
you have had a flight of capital. You see, businesses, and business persons have left the country. When this government came in, they talked about capitalism. And today in the budget, you have an announcement that the government is going to resuscitate two urea plants in eastern India, and they're going to be setting up another urea plant. Well, all that is very good. But then, if private investment was working, it was actually the corporate sector, the private sector, which was supposed to do that. And number two,
Sure.
with all the focus on agriculture, you see, and here lies the dichotomy that agriculture today is growing at 1.4%, down from almost 4.1%, going by the government's numbers. But if you look at the Manrega budgets, people ready to work on a subsistence wage, it has gone up from 30,000 crores in 2014 to about 90,000 crores last year. I've not looked at the latest number, but it should be, I think, in that range. And the number of person days has gone up from 15 lakh crore person days to 31 lakh crore person days. So therefore, there is obviously no employment even in the agriculture sector, which otherwise statistically was, according to government figures, growing at about 4.1%. So therefore, if you step back, this leaving that personal income tax aside, where you've given relief to people who have, let's say, a salary of 1 lakh rupees a month, well, that's good. But when you look at the macros and when you look at the fundamentals, I don't think the needle has moved at all.
Okay. Mr. Tewari, we leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us with your perspective.